Would you like to see my first panel? Ta-da! Hello, this is Steve, Dichroic Glassman. Yep, got news. This is my first panel. In my own writing, in pencil, July 27th, 1981. Ta-da! It's a little bit broken, just like me, or a lot of it broken, especially lately. But the panel has beauty, and I hope I still do too as well. I know, it's just a metaphor. Anyway, grab a cup of coffee or tea or a beer or a glass of wine and sit down. I want to tell you a little bit about why this is important to me. This panel's never been seen associated with me, and maybe only 10 people ever have seen this panel. It's kind of weird. I've been thinking about it and thinking about it. Oh well, now's the time. On that day of July 27th, 1981, in Denver, Colorado, I walked in Lakewood. I walked to a store. Where I walked into a store that was an old anchor store converted to craft stalls. It was really cool. It was one of the first beginning ones of its time. It was in the 80s, so it's pretty neat. And that process of these little stalls was rather revolutionary for that time. So anyway, as I walked around, I don't even know why I arrived there, to tell you the truth. In my early 20s, I shouldn't have been interested in something like this. Cultural, quiet, calming. Because I was still trying to understand myself. All of these feelings, these emotions, the synesthesia was just crazy head. And for a young man, which at that point, most of us don't even have a sense of direction. And my compass skills with 2 or 3 or 4 compasses going on trying to find a direction was not even possible. So luck would have it, fate would have it actually, that I came into this stall and saw this man with stained glass clocks on the wall behind him. He wasn't pretentious, he wasn't teaching, he was doing. He was actually cutting some glass, soldering. He was going through the functions and minding himself. It really wasn't about teaching, just making his craft. He was teaching me. Several of us were watching, but I learned everything I needed to know in approximately 45 minutes that I needed to get out of there and continue with what this journey would produce now as Dichroic Glassman. I saw 45 minutes of my first stained glass impetus. The first thing I saw was him cutting glass. He was cutting glass on a table and with his cutter, and he would pop it with his hands, and I was shocked. I had no idea beauty could be created so quickly, so easily, and so mechanically. I was very mechanical, and I'll talk about that in another video, what that means for other people who are mechanically inclined as well. But I saw him cut the glass, break it easily. He had a grinder, or some sort of a grinding system, I think, at that time, where he ground his edge easily, quickly. He didn't spend any time on it. He wasn't there to teach. He was just there to do what he did in his little stall in the show. So as I saw him cut that glass, I knew in my mind I could do that. Then he foiled it with a tiny tape around each piece. He soldered some of these pieces together and set them aside. And then it did it again. And again, and again, and again. All I needed to do was see that ABC. A lot like you. Maybe your dad taught you how to saw a board and measure it and saw it and cut it and put it up and put some screws and mark a mark and thus and that. And who knows if some of you woodworkers started out from your dad building a doghouse. an hour here and an hour there, and all of a sudden today you're a general contractor. It's kind of fascinating how some of us only need a minute and then we're ready to go ourselves. I was one of those people. Some of you have cut hair, sang, played guitar. All you needed to do was see somebody do it so that you knew it can be done. And since anybody can do it, you and I qualify for being anybody, don't we? Yeah. So, off to the races. 45 minutes later, I left. I was levitated. I didn't know what to do with this. I couldn't believe I just saw beauty created so quickly and easily. Well, on that day, I went home, and I had a roommate at that time. He was a general contractor named Gene. I said, Gene, you ain't going to believe this. I seen how stained glass was made. Well, not made, but put together. He said, really? And I told him what I saw, and he said, well, that's funny. I said, why? He said, because in the attic, I've got all the tools and supplies and grinder and glass and soldering iron and solder and foil and tape and everything you're going to need, except the motor to the grinder is burned out. Wow, really? So I got the grinder fixed or bought a used one. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But he had some pattern books and just a whole box of, it was a mess, broken pieces of glass, and these are all the colors. And let's look at it again. Yeah, it's actually kind of pretty. And 2 days later, 2 days, I figured it out. I made my first window. And the rest is history. 1,000, 2,000 panels later, 1,000 lamps and kaleidoscopes and jewelry boxes, not each, all compiled, night lights, plant it just everything in the books. I even went to J.C. Penney catalogs and Sears catalogs and seen stained glass this. I watched TV and saw sitcoms with stained glass and tried to take a photograph, and that was ridiculous. I tried to draw it and it was too fast. Well, you know the idea. Anywhere I could find glass. Glass literal, glass pictures, I had to do it. The frustrating thing was my color blindness kept showing up. In 9th grade, I found out I was colorblind. One of the most terrible things I'd ever heard. I knew I was different. I just didn't need anybody to tell me there was proof I was different, or I was defective, or wrong. It was devastating in 9th grade to find out I was colorblind. Oh my God, you'd have thought, I know. What a death sentence that was for me emotionally. Really? Some kids are dealing with horrific things. For me, that was tough, being colorblind. I knew I was something different about me, but dang, you had to tell me that? What a small thing in the grand scheme of things in comparison, I know. In that world in the 80s, 70s actually, 70s, 80s, yeah, things were a lot different then. So, off to the races I went. Look at my soldering. It's crazy big. Crazy. But that's me in my infancy stage. That's me as a baby. It's my very first child, stained glass wise. I probably pulled the pattern out of a book or altered it or did something. Maybe some of you recognize it. But it is what it is, and I appreciate it. I wouldn't sell it. I wouldn't give it away. I didn't show it to a lot of people. I stayed private. I was an extreme introvert in my earlier years. In fact, until I had a form of West Nile virus 5 years ago, I didn't talk out loud very easily. It was very tough. Incredible introvert because of the synesthesia. Who would want to hear my crazy stories, my wackadoo, my thousands of birds that weren't there? I saw them. I seen things. My family laughed. Everybody laughed. You know what it's like. When you're an introvert and you seek other forms of life, or knowledge, or safety, or security, you don't want to tell them about your stories, do you? I understand what that's like. It's hard. It's that black sheep mentality. You got wackadoo stories. Why would we want to hear about it? They don't make sense. I know. So stained glass rescued me on that day, and stained glass knew it. As things in life, spirit knows. I did not know. But I knew something was electric in me. When I went home and told my roommate at that time that I'd just seen the coolest thing ever, that I can make art, that I think I could do this, and here's my first. This is what, 30 some years, almost 40 years old. Crazy. For me, anyway, that I even held on to it for this long. It was one of my most important things. I carried it everywhere without anybody knowing it. I hid it, but I hid it for all those years, like I hid myself for all those years. At least in this case since 1981, nobody's ever seen it. Maybe a handful. I wasn't proud of it, but I knew I could do better. So I was embarrassed and I hid it. Very few people saw it. I got better immediately. You wouldn't believe what my second and third panel looked like. Actually, I think I sold them. I got that good overnight. Well, I don't know. Is that good? I'm 100% self-taught today. I've never had a glass lesson. I've looked over the shoulders at a couple people. I wouldn't lie and tell you that. But they weren't, even to this day, I have not done what they were doing. They were doing their own thing. It was interesting. But I created my own system. I created the Genesis system years later. It was the way I could break out of these typical patterns in these books and the teddy bears and the unicorn experience that I got tired of having. Making somebody else looking good, never my own experience. And even this panel is not my own design. I didn't create this. This was out of some book. It's pretty, but it left me wanting a lot more. So that's the early beginnings of my stained glass career, and this is my very first ever digitized, ever seen in the public. Ta-da! Thanks for listening. In all my videos, I would like to create this attitude, this notion that I'm wanting to work with you. What can I do to help you? Can I create a lesson plan privately, put it on a video like I do? Very descriptive, lots of instruction. When I'm teaching, I go really instructive. People who have bought my lesson plans actually know. I'm very detailed, and I'm the kind of person that tells you what ifs, and this is what to do if it does. I'm one of those kind. Analytical. After all, not only do I have your back, I have your success in my mind. If a man is judged by the company he keeps, I want to have successful people around me, and I want to be around you if you're successful. And if there's something I can do to be that, it helps me with my self-imagery. I think that's how it works. It does for me. If I'm giving, I'm in a great place. If I'm not so much. I find great value in helping others. Thank you for watching. Thanks for the comments. I can use them, especially now. If you have some ideas, collaborative ideas, teaching ideas, let me know. I'm definitely ready to go on tour. You'll know. You'll see as we start accumulating a lot of videos. There's a lot of glass things that I know. I'm ready now. Let's go. Bye-bye.